There are increasing concerns that by the end of next year, water levels at Lake Powell will drop too low for hydroelectric power generation. December of 2026 is also the deadline for a new Colorado River Water Compact. For more on all this, we welcome Sarah Porter, Director of the Kyle Center for Water Policy at ASU's Morrison Institute. Sarah, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about this. This is a pretty sobering forecast here for Lake Powell.
Yeah, it certainly is. We had a bad winter in terms of flows into the Colorado River. And so the reservoir didn't accrue more water in storage, at least sufficient to keep us, to stave off these risks that we're now facing.
Okay, so go ahead, please.
Well, things are starting to look worse. And in the latest projections that the United States Bureau of Reclamation provides, they showed that there's let's just say, more chance than we would like that the water levels could get so low that the Glen Canyon Dam wouldn't produce hydropower.
And what the impact of that dam not producing hydroelectric power? What would that mean?
It's a significant generator of hydroelectric power. So let's just start with the fact that it's power that predominantly tribes and rural communities directly rely on. So it creates hardship for those power users. They have to figure out another way to meet their power demands. And another consideration is that hydropower is considered a clean energy. It doesn't produce carbon emissions. And so it removes a form of non-carbon producing energy from the portfolios of energy providers. So it's got kind of a double whammy in that respect.
So we're looking at Lake Powell, and the forecast for the end of next year is not good at all. Where is Lake Powell right now? Where is Lake Mead? What are the water levels, and what does it look like?
They're both really low. They have these two big reservoirs have not recovered. And so we are facing concerns about, if we have another not so good winter, which is a very reasonable thing to expect, we could be in worse shape. And that's really the hydrologic context that we're facing right now. Even an average winter wouldn't put us in a good place. And that's just to put us in, a less risky place than we are now.
We're talking Lake Powell. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there some sort of short-term deal or some sort of idea in place, a short-term plan for Lake Mead that's helping that particular? First of all, is that true? And secondly, what does it mean?
Well, there've been a series of kind of interim steps that different groups of the basin states have taken to keep the lake levels at both Lake Mead and Lake Powell from going down to dangerously low levels. So in particular, in 2019 and thereafter, some subsequent agreements, the lower basin states have figured out ways of leaving water in Lake Mead. Lake Powell is upstream of Lake Mead with the Grand Canyon running in between. So water flows into Lake Mead from Lake Powell, and then water flowing out of Lake Mead goes to people in California, Arizona, Southern Nevada, and Mexico. So particularly Arizona, but to some extent Nevada and Mexico have figured out ways over the last few years to conserve very significant amounts of water in Lake Mead, but it's not enough. The steps that we've taken are not enough.
It's not enough. And again, if Lake Powell upstream is not holding up its end of the bargain here, I mean, that affects the whole kit and caboodle.
That's right. There are reservoirs upstream, again, from which water could be hypothetically released to help shore up Lake Powell, but then you've just moved your problem upstream. So, the reality that we're facing is simply insufficient water to meet the expectations of the water users in the system.
And that's the scenario that we're seeing, and that's the forecast that we're hearing for December of next year. You got to get a compact going. You got to get all these states together with some sort of plan to allocate and administer Colorado River water. How do those two things mix and mingle here? Because that's quite an equation.
So one word, and that is uncertainty. We are in a very dicey, I would say we're at the 11th and a half hour in terms of an agreement among the 7 states. Uh, they've been struggling truly for years to come to an agreement, which really has to be about who takes cuts in water, because that is fundamentally the problem that we're facing as a 7-state, 2-nation, 29 tribe, group of water users. In June, the director of water resources in Arizona, Tom Bushatsky, shared at a public meeting in Arizona that Arizona has proposed a new way of operating the system that's really quite a different way. And I think a lot of us felt hopeful that this new approach, which would be based on average flows in the Colorado River, that's a smart approach. Let's base water allocations on the amount that's actually in the river. But there are so many points of disagreement, and what we're hearing is that they're still very far apart in agreement. So that's uncertainty. We don't have the outlines of an agreement. We don't know whether they'll be able to come to an agreement.
So it sounds like a sliding scale is what Arizona was proposing.
Yeah, the proposal was to take the 3-year estimated average flow at Lee Ferry, and it would have to be, since the water's impounded in Lake Powell upstream, it would have to be kind of this hydrologic estimation, and then figure out a percentage that all the 7 states would agree on that could be allocated to the lower basin states. And then there would be a lot of other things to work out, like how much of that percentage goes to each of the lower basin users, that kind of thing. But it seemed promising, and now it's not so clear if that's going to wind up being where we wind up.
Sarah, it seems relatively dire here. I mean, 11th hour, past the 11th hour, we all feel the weather. We know what's going on out there. We're just not getting the rain. We're just not getting the snow. Got to have it by the end of next year. Is the fact that it's so dire, will that push people to get this compact done maybe in a different way than they would have if the reservoirs were more full?
Oh, I should think so. It's easier to come to an agreement when you have a lot of water to agree on, to share. But clearly, everybody at the table understands that they face enormous risks if they don't come to an agreement. And I'll add that the Secretary of Interior has made it clear that he is prepared to take unilateral action in the absence of an agreement. And that's also that element of uncertainty that how does any state know what the secretary would do?
And that was going to be my question, Sarah.
Yeah.
I mean, what would they do? What would that mean for Arizona? Do we even have any idea?
We don't know. We really don't know. And so, but that's the case for every single state. I think in some, I would think that making sure that some water gets to the cities of Phoenix and Tucson, and the surrounding, the cities in central Arizona that rely on Colorado River water would likely be a priority, but there's no guarantee of that. But at the same time, this great risk of this great uncertainty that we're facing means that the cities in central Arizona have been taking the steps and getting prepared for what they have to do to meet demand if the shortages are very deep. They're not the only ones taking steps. The states, the negotiators, everybody is taking steps. But it's important to recognize that cities have made big investments in making sure that if there are very severe cuts, they have water supplies that they can deliver where they're needed.
All right, Sarah Porter, Kyle Center for Water Policy at ASU's Morrison Institute. Important information. It's good to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.